All right, ladies and gentlemen, the world is riveted on the trial. They're calling it the American Sniper trial, of course, the alleged killer of Chris Kyle. And the latest is that the prosecutor says that he was, or not Kyle, but of course his alleged killer, Ray Routh, was numbed by marijuana and whiskey when he fatally shot Kyle and another man. Joining us now is Geoffrey G. Nathan. He's a Massachusetts criminal defense lawyer who has successfully defended U.S. soldiers accused of international war crimes by the Army in Iraq and Afghanistan in military court. Geoffrey, welcome, sir.
Thank you.
All right, let me get your read on this. You know, the defense is claiming that his PTSD should preclude him from facing consequences in these killings. He shouldn't go to jail. He should be placed in a facility and rehab, etc. What's your take on what you know of this case?
Good luck to the defense, frankly, in that particular argument, because they have an overwhelmingly difficult legal burden that is put upon them by the Texas legislature, which has said that in order for the defendant to prove that they should get a not guilty because of insanity, the state uses the McNaughton rule with the irresistible impulse test that has two layers put upon the defense. One, the defendant has to know, can't know, due to his mental illness, the nature of the crime, or he, because of his mental disease or defect, cannot understand right from wrong, plus the irresistible impulse upon him due to his mental disease or defect. It's a very difficult standard, frankly.
Right, and most people, you know, laymen such as myself would imagine, based on what we know, that there's no doubt this man pulled the trigger and certainly should suffer the consequences and will suffer the consequences. And not just because American Sniper, the movie, is out at this time, and not just because it's a blockbuster success, but because it is what it is on the merits of the case, correct?
Yeah, I mean, jurors are really reluctant to let a guy walk, and they're afraid of that happening if they say that he's not guilty by reason of insanity. So the consequences, the jurors say, look, we're not going to let him go. Let's just hook him on a guilty for whatever he did and let him serve the rest of his life in prison, or get the death penalty, which in Texas is going to happen no matter what in this particular case. So the defense is going to throw the argument up there and see what sticks. But because of those triple layers that are put upon them that I just had to read to you, which is what the judge does. He reads these instructions to the jury. It's going to be very difficult for the defense to prevail in this particular argument. I don't want to say that the decedent is responsible for his own death, but if I were trying this case, I'd be throwing a lot on why was this decedent having mentally ill people or people that are saying they suffer from PTSD handling firearms alone in a range. It's really negligent conduct.
Well, do you think that will succeed?
I think that it's going to cause a lot of jury deliberation to say, look, we understand that we've got a war hero here, but we don't understand who sanctioned him to allow veterans who were suffering from PTSD to go out into a firearms range. I mean, what medical certification did he have to authorize this kind of conduct? And the answer is none.
And especially, Nathan, especially, not to interrupt, when he himself knew all about PTSD. So he knew what these men were suffering and possibly capable of. So where do you think, I mean, you talk about the high bar of the defense here to convince the jury, yet you bring up this issue. So when push comes to shove, it's too early right now, I know, to predict or to talk about deliberations, but what do you think? Do you think ultimately this man will be convicted?
He's going to be convicted of the acts that occurred, which is that two people died by virtue of him pulling the trigger. The issue is, does he stand a chance of serving a sentence in a mental hospital as a result of his conduct? And the answer to that is, may not be just because of the insanity test, but he may wind up in that lesser restrictive environment and subject to release because of the conduct of the decedent.
All right, Nathan, I thank you very, very much. That's a very interesting point. We'll talk to you again as this goes on. Thank you, sir. Give Me Five is next. Don't go away.